name is Brendan Edwards. I'm the First Nations Skills Development Advisor at Ontario Library Service North. And I have technical assistance here with me in the form of Jeff, so hopefully nothing will go wrong, but should anything happen, we should be in good hands. So I'd like to welcome everybody this morning, and thank you for logging in and being a part of our webinar this morning. This morning our talk is on teen books, and we'll be listening to Janet Murray and Saffron Beckwith. Janet has been selling books for the entirety of her adult life, starting at the Special Orders Department in a bookstore at Simon Fraser University in 1979. She couldn't love anything more than spending her days visiting librarians who want to talk about books. She spends her spare time reading, of course, and volunteering on various book-related committees. Saffron has been blessed to be selling books for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
Got in for books and stayed because
of a web thing, webinar, like a meeting thing. But you want to
describes herself as a bit of a dinosaur, and has had only 2 jobs in those decades. She's currently a partner in Kate Walker and Company, which represents some of Canada's finest publishers. Because she has too much time on her hands, she also teaches at Centennial and Ryerson University in their publishing program. She feels very fortunate to have what she considers the best job in the world, hanging out with interesting people and talking about great books. So thank you very much, Saffron and Janet, for being with us this morning.
Yeah.
And I'll now hand over the floor to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for having us. I'm Saffron, and Janet and I will be alternating our presentations, so you just won't be hearing me talk the whole entire time, or Janet. Thanks to Ontario Library Services North for inviting us to this. We are the Dewey Divas, or 2 members of the Dewey Divas and Dews, and we're library reps from publishing houses, and we do presentations all over the country, mostly in Ontario. And we probably see about, the group as a whole probably sees about over 1,000 librarians every single year. We really love doing this. We love talking with librarians. This is our very first time we've done a webinar, so we're all still in our PJs. Just kidding. But we're really excited to be here. So thank you very much, and thanks to Marietta and to Brendan for organizing this. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them on the chat room ask part of the presentation, and we'll go ahead. So I work with Kate Walker and Company. As I mentioned, we represent a number of fabulous Canadian and international publishers such as Kids Can, Great Plains, Orca, DK, Second Story. So we're really excited to talk about teen books in particular. There's been such an incredible upsurge of teen books in the past 5-6 years, and there's really quite a glut, if I may say, of books out there. So what we do is we sort of, when we talk to our librarians, we talk about some of the key books that can really work, because as we know, there is a lot of material out there. So we hope you like our choices. So the first book I wanted to talk about was Chance to Dance for You. And this is by Gail Silva, and it's been published by Great Plains. Now, this is a book that I think will appeal to a lot of teens. Specifically, it's looking at a young man who's in high school and who's openly gay, and he happens to fall in love with the high school quarterback. This may sound a little bit familiar. I think this is some of the content matter we've seen recently on some episodes of Glee. And it's a really powerful, passionate book. We've recently had some feedback from some of the library wholesalers that libraries really are looking for more gay teen material, because there really isn't a heck of a lot of stuff out there. And Gail is a fabulous writer. She has been nominated for all kinds of awards, and has also received best books from the Canadian Children's Book Centre.
Hi everybody, I'm Janet from Scholastic. My first book is the Klutz Book of Inventions, and I was excited to be able to add this. I rarely get to present Klutz books to libraries because there can be some challenges with the formatting. In this case, concealed coil binding, but in December, the ALA said this was one of the best books for reluctant readers of 2010. So with the ALA stamp of approval, I am going forward. This It's a book of inventions that don't actually exist in reality. Some do have outstanding patents on them, but most of them were developed from a brainstorming session. My favorite one is the password-protected stapler. Because I work in an open concept office, I need one of these. I'm also quite fond of the mood collar for your cat that will reflect every mood from angry to merely annoyed to sullen. There's also a Quitter's Convert-A-Kit that will turn your neglected exercise equipment into a comfy lounger, complete with snack dispenser. I like to put review slides in my presentation because I don't think you should just take my word for it. This book is absolutely hilarious, especially according to B. Mason. The other thing I would add is there's a really cool activity section in the back of the book that will tell you how to create this. If you want to use it for a program, you put kids around a table, you add sticky notes, a Sharpie, and a lot of donuts, and you just get rolling with the brainstorming. It's great to have an activity that is appealing to boys as well as girls, I think.
Thanks, Janet. I'd like to talk about Foster Girls, which is a new teen fiction book from Leanne Shaw and from Second Story Press. Leanne Shaw is the author of a book called thinandbeautiful.com, and I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to read that, but that was a very powerful book all about anorexia. And in that book, in thinandbeautiful.com, she deals with these pro-ana websites, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with those. I had never heard of them, but pro-ana websites are these websites that are out there that are pro-anorexia and how anorexia is a really great thing to have or to be an anorexic person. So definitely it was a very compelling book and very powerfully written. Foster Girls deals with another very contemporary issue about a young woman, young girl living in a foster home, and this is her 13th foster home that she's been in. She clearly hasn't had that great of a time of it, and this book really looks at sort of her struggles with living in a foster home. The foster into foster care and leaves her daughter Sadie still in the home. This, of course, Sadie and Earl, and it's a very compelling book. This is another one that the wholesalers talked about needing more books available for, or for children in foster homes. So that's Foster Girls from Leanne Shaw.
Thanks, Saf. The next book is Lost and Found, a collection from Sean Tan, the amazingly talented author of The Arrival and now also Oscar winner for The Lost Things. This is a collection of 3 books, graphic novels, that were originally published in Australia and are not widely available. So they're all here together for one time. I think this is a really wonderful book club book because there's so much room for discussion beyond what is just in the narrative. And in every case, what's in the narrative is very, very simple. The illustration adds to it, but really they're all 3 stories about metaphor. The first one is The Lost Thing, which is the story of a young boy who finds something that is obviously lost. His parents are in total dismay. It's a story. Sean Tan, on his website, he talks about this short book and how he was trying to find visual ways to represent this girl's experience of her day. The Lost Thing, for people who are interested, is going to be running on the Space Network, and you can also see it in its entirety. I will send out a link to Marietta that she can forward on to all of you. I'm going to assume that she has everybody's email address, so I'll be sending that out this afternoon.
Thanks, Janet. So that's written by John Cooper, and it's been published by Dundurn Press. So Greyhound is John's first novel for teens. He's done a lot of nonfiction for teens, but this is his first foray into fictional writing. So this looks at a 15-year-old boy, Danny, who's, again, going through a lot of issues in his life. His father is an alcoholic. He's moved to a new town, and basically how he's dealing with those struggles there. The 2 things that really sort of bring him out are his love of judo and also his love of writing. So those are 2 quite different places where he can find some refuge. I think boys will like this in particular because it is have a strong boy character. There's a little bit of violence in it, so in terms of some fighting. So I think that's another reason why the teens might be interested in this. So this is the Greyhound.
This is Janet. There are a couple of books on this list that I wasn't necessarily going to read, and The Big Crunch by Pete Houtman is one of them. I don't have a lot of interest in teen romance, but Pete Houtman totally made me care about this. This is not about two teens who are kind of colliding together, propelled by hormones. They just gradually circle each other in title and quest about this book. It's written in alternating chapters, one from the point of view of June and one from the point of view of Wes. Has a very definite voice and a very definite opinion about what's going on, and poor Wes is just confused. He's like, oh my God, what's happening to me? He has no idea really what this whole love thing is all about. And I can't admit, oh yeah, and you can see Kirkus absolutely loved this book. It was refreshing. I thought so too. It's a very unusual take on this kind of situation. Oh, sorry, that's not the next. Are we out of order? Sorry.
Yeah. Hi, thanks, Janet. So the book I want to talk about next is called Haunted from Source Books, and probably the fastest growing category in a fast growing category like teen fiction is certainly paranormal romance. There is just such a huge amount of material. I know myself, we have so many books to choose from, so it was really quite challenging to sort of pick the best of the best. And this is the one I've decided to go with. So Haunted is a follow-up to Dreaming Anastasia, which sold very, very well in its debut when it came out last year. We got fabulous quotes on her previous book from Cynthia Smith, who said it was equally parts spooky, sassy, sinister, and sexy. So this is the sequel to that book, and I think this will appeal to fans of Gemma Doyle, the folks that like that series. So that's Haunted, and a beautiful cover.
It is a beautiful cover. Spooky and romantic. Destroy all cards. The story of a change can happen unless all cards are destroyed. He's also fiercely anti-consumerist. He's a bit of a Marxist, this little boy, and he has nothing but contempt for people he considers to be do-gooders. He is always saying things like, well, that organic salad bar is not going to refreeze the polar ice caps. Then he falls in love with a girl who's a bit of a do-gooder. Her whole thing is trying to build a bicycle path around the city. So it's funny, it's charming, it's really written in a combination of English assignments that the poor English teacher cannot possibly grade because they are so deeply personal, journal entries, and dialogue. Wonderful review in Booklist, and I felt the same thing. It was a bit sorry to see him let go of all his, very innocent radicalism. Very, very funny book. Something else I wanted to say.
So How I Stole Johnny Depp's Alien Girlfriend. And no, we didn't. They didn't just come up with this title because of the huge success of the Rango movie that's out this season and the upcoming Pirates of the Caribbean. But I'm reflecting on my list that it's really quite interesting, I think, that we have so many boy books out there. And I've noticed Janet's list is also the same. There tends to be, most books, there seems to be a lot of books out there published for young women and for girls. So it's really quite refreshing to see some books out there that are, hopefully that boys will be interested in. So this one is all about David Gershwin and how he falls in love with this young woman who seems a little bit off the edge. And we're really excited about this. This is his very first novel. And there you go.
Off the edge in what way?
You'll have to read it to find out, Janet.
Okay. The next book is Fever Crumb by Philip Reeve. Tons of stuff appealing to somebody who is my age. There's a pub called the Mott and Hoople. There's all kinds of fever who is being raised by a group of engineers, and they are trying to get rid of any kind of emotion from this girl. They believe only in rationality. and it's what happens as she goes forward. She's kidnapped by people who are trying to mine her memories to figure out what's happened. This whole world is built on the ashes of our current world. And there are some very, very funny references to the absolute kind of archaicness, things like they really are going forward. You can see the wonderful, wonderful reviews for this book, and it was also on the Carnegie shortlist.
So The Limping Man is the third in the trilogy, and therefore the final book in the trilogy called Salt. This has been published by Orca Book Publishers, who do a huge amount of teen fiction. They're probably best known for their Sounding series, which you probably have lots of in your library, and they're based out in Victoria. They don't buy a lot of books. They don't buy a lot of rights to books, so for them, this is a book that they actually purchased from Australia because there's so much buzz about it. The first book in the series is called Salt, the second one is Ghoul, and now the final conclusion for The Limping Man. When we first heard about this series, there was a huge amount of buzz within our office. All of the reps just absolutely loved it. So it is dystopian fantasy. It is set in the future, and it would follow for people who are fans of the Hunger Games, Ursula Le Guin, those types of readers. So again, if you're looking for the next book after those books, because I know kids are always looking for something new to read, I would definitely highly recommend The Limping Man. I don't think there was anybody out of the 12 reps in our office that read that couldn't put it down. It's just a fantastic read.
Nice. There's some really great books coming out of Australia, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini Bites is another book I wasn't not necessarily going to read, and one night I was getting into the tub and I had nothing to read, so I grabbed it to read for 20 minutes, and 2 hours later I was a total prude, and I was also a complete convert to this amazing book. A story of a pair of twins who have a very prickly relationship with each other. The girl is pretty manipulative, and she's a bit of a schemer. She's pretending to be a born-again Christian so she can get her hooks into the very handsome boy who is leading the Bible study group. She's completely faking it. And her twin brother has just come out as being gay. He's very, very open about it. And the story really revolves around a young man, Garrett, who moves into their garret or attic for the last month or so of the school year. He's quite charismatic. He's very handsome, and he's also very mysterious. Everybody, of course, falls in love with him. He's a bit of a goth, and he does go around telling people that he is a vampire. Of course, he's not a vampire. But there is quite a disturbed young man in their school who believes this, and who believes that all this kind of evil must be eradicated, and it really stalks and tries to harm Garrett. There is some sexual content in this book, just so you're aware. It's definitely 14 and up. And there's a very enthusiastic experimental act between 2 boys in the story.
Jenna, what's that?
You'll have to read it.
Thanks. The next book I'm going to talk about is from Dorling Kindersley. It's called My World, My Story. Dorling Kindersley, I think, is probably the best publisher of illustrated reference out there. When I heard about that we were going to do this teen talk, I was like, wow, this book couldn't have come out at any better time. So basically, this is a guide to teenagers who live around the world. It really does cover, how they live, how they sleep, how they play, what they do, and it just goes into quite some depth. It's got over 150 images in it, and it does have, thankfully, some story from Canada, but it also goes as far as India, the Dominican Republic, Israel, just all over the world. So for teens looking, for just reference about how other people live across the world, or just maybe sort of wanting to understand see themselves in other places across the world, this will just be a fabulous book. The nice thing about Dorling Kindersley is because it's so heavily illustrated with lots of fantastic content in it, it really works well for people that don't have necessarily a great reading level, but there's enough depth in it for people whose reading level is quite high.
Not That Kind of Girl by Siobhan Vivian is a story about Natalie, who is not that kind of girl. She's a good girl, and she's all about her future. She's working hard on the SATs. She's the president of the student council. She's definitely not going to date. And then she gets involved with the quarterback of the football team. The conflict in this story really revolves around her and a young woman who comes into school who's very, she's all about the power of her own sexuality. My favorite review of this book said it's like watching the second and third waves of feminism duke it out in the high school auditorium, and I thought that was a really wonderful description of what happens, and Kirkus made reference to that as well. There also is a character in this book, the high school guidance counselor, who very uncomfortably reminded me of me, dressing head to toe in black, overly earnest with her women's studies degree and her English literature degree. And she tries to direct Natalie away from this involvement. She's keeping this a deep, dark secret, this love affair she's having with this young man, and he turns out to be a very, very sweet man, quite deeply hurt by the secrecy around this love affair. It's very funny and a very tender story.
Thanks, Janet. So the next book I wanted to talk about is called Picturing Alyssa, and it's from Dundurn Press, and it's Alison Lohans, who's the author, has written over 22 books for teens and for young people, so she certainly knows what she's doing. She has also won the 2008 Saskatchewan Book Award for YA Literature, as well as been a finalist for the CLA Young Adult Book Award, as well as lots of others. So Picturing Alyssa is about a young girl, Alyssa, a teenager, who's got quite a unhappy home life. Her mother is severely depressed after the stillborn of her most recent child, stillbirth of her most recent child. So Alyssa wants to escape, so she finds this old photograph in her house, and in it she can... Thanks, Janet. Janet was dying to use her pointer, so she finally found a reason to use it. So, anyways, so Alyssa manages to somehow get into the photograph and visit the occupant, or the young woman that's in there, who's actually living in Iowa in 1931. So she goes back and forth and realizes, at some point that, in fact, the young woman she's visiting turns out to be her great-grandmother. So I think this will appeal to, teens that like, books about the troubled families, because they can sort of recognize it in themselves. There's also some elements of pacifism in here as Quakers, so looking at that. So she's a very powerful writer, really strong, and I think your patrons will enjoy Picturing Alyssa.
Numbers is a really wonderful thriller. The story of a girl who, when she looks someone in the eye, she sees a set of numbers. She comes to understand from her mother's death that what she's seeing is the day they will die. The story starts when she and a friend go to the London Eye, and everybody there has the same set of numbers, which is today. They hightail it out of there, and kaboom, everything goes sky high. People think these two kids are involved with the explosion and are after them. The chase is on at that point. Both these kids are from foster care. There is a lot of discussion about race and class in this book, and people love it. It was Aurelia used it in their Battle of the Books last summer. I think they had about 50 kids registered, but this book won by more than 800 votes. When people love it, they really love it, and they vote for it constantly. The sequel is called Chaos and is just recently out, and you can see it got starred reviews everywhere. It has a fantastic, shocking ending that is carried on in the sequel.
So the next book I want to talk about is Reunion by Pascal Girard. This is a graphic novel, and it's being published by Drawn and Quarterly, which is a graphic novel publisher based in Montreal, and probably one of the best, I would say top 5 graphic novel publishers in the world. They are the publisher of Chester Brown's Louis Riel, as well as Seth, so a lot of great Canadian, probably, again, the best Canadian graphic novel publishers. When I was thinking about this list, I wasn't sure whether or not to put this book on because it is talking about a middle-aged man who's going back to his high school reunion. But I thought, you know what? Why not? Let them know what their life potentially may be like. Give them a bit of shot of reality. And Pascal Girard is a wonderful cartoonist. He really enjoys, he's really quite self-deprecating about looking at his life as it was when he was in high school and sort of where he's at now. So I think they'll really enjoy it, and maybe it'll give them a wake-up call.
Recovery Road is the second book on this list by Blake Nelson, and it turns out I am a bit of a fan. And it's a story really about finding the right person at the wrong time. It's two kids who meet in rehab. The girl is 16 and the boy is 19. They're not supposed to get involved, but of course they do. And the story really starts to unfold when they go home, and their experience of going home are very, very different. Her father is a lawyer. Her family is very well off, and she has a ton of support. His father's not working. His mother's disappeared, and he's really casting around quite a bit. And those circumstances come to really dictate how each one does. So there's a lot of not only is it about addiction and alcoholism, but there's a lot in this book about class, and it's a very powerful story. Publishers Weekly have already loved it.
She Said, She Saw by Nora McClintock, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with this author. This is written by, this is coming again from Orca Books. Nora's last book, Taken, was all about a young girl who was kidnapped, and everyone thinks that she sort of fakes her own kidnapping, and nobody quite believes it. So when She Said, She Saw, it sort of touches again on that mistrust or disbelief. It's about a girl, Tegan, who's in the backseat of her car when two of her best friends are shot and murdered. No one quite believes what she saw or what she didn't see. Tegan says that she doesn't know, and really a lot of her friends start to turn against her. Nora does a fantastic job of really getting inside those kids' heads in terms of, how they relate to adults and the pressures that people feel around them. And she's very good at writing some very scary books. So this is it's just an absolute page turner, and I think your patrons will really enjoy this.
I was in my car, as I often am, listening to a phone-in on CBC for teenagers about who is your favorite author, and I thought it was going to be the Harry Potter Hour, Nora McClintock.
Really?
It was unbelievable how many people phoned in to say Nora McClintock.
Great. Thanks, Janet.
My pleasure.
Please don't let Scholastic try and steal her from Orca.
We already published her, my friend.
All right, there you go.
Strings Attached. How wonderful is this book? Let me count the ways. If someone had said to me Scholastic is going to publish a book about a 1950s showgirl that gets involved in the mafia, I would have laughed. But in fact, that is what this amazing book is. If you have not read What I Saw and How I Lied, which won the National Book Award, do yourself a favor and put it on hold at your library. It's terrific. Very noir. These books have a kind of Raymond Chandler writing for teenage girls quality to them. In the case of Strings Attached, the story is about a young girl who wants to be a star in the early 50s. So she hightails it to New York, and she gets a job dancing in a chorus in a nightclub. And there, the father of her boyfriend turns out to be connected to the mafia, and she kind of loses control of how her life goes forward. One thing I really loved about this book was there are little elements about the clothing. I wouldn't call this necessarily fashion lit, but it really adds beautifully to the story. The LA Times just reviewed this book, comparing it to Scott Fitzgerald, which I thought was unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
And it also had star reviews in PW and Kirkus, and these are fantastic crossover books for adult readers.
Man, that's pretty high praise.
I'll give you one.
Yeah, thanks. So my last book I wanted to talk about was Spinning Out, and again, another great book for boys. I know certainly in Toronto at the TDSB, Chris Spence has made a lot of noise, the director of the TDSB, a lot of noise about boys in reading and boys in writing. You know, certainly when I was in school in the 80s, it was all about girls in reading and helping them out. So it really is nice to see publishers responding to that and actually providing materials that boys may be interested in. And Spinning Out, I hope, is one of those books. So basically this is about a young boy, Frenchie, and he and his best bud, Stuart, decide they're going to join up with the High School Musical. Again, it sounds a little bit like that show Glee that seems to be a little bit popular these days, certainly in my house. So they join the High School Musical, but his friend becomes quite obsessed with his part and with his role, and just seems to be acting his role outside of the confines of the stage. So it does, his friend Frenchie does sort of follow him and sort of tries to find out what's happening, and it does deal with some issues of madness and what is madness anyway. So whether he's OCD or bipolar, we don't know. But again, another really strong book for boys or young men.
I think of Trapped as kind of Chuck Klosterman meets Gary Paulson with a little bit of Breakfast Club thrown in. It's a weather thriller, and it takes place in the worst snowstorm ever in this small town. 7 kids, quite a diverse set of kids. Some are friends, some are not friends, some are just odd and not part of any group, get left at school. Nobody comes to pick them up. And it's all kind of fun, and the snow is going to stop the next day, and it's all good. But it keeps snowing, and then it gets cold, and then the pipes freeze, and then the cafeteria runs out of food, and then the roof caves in, and it's 7 days that they're trapped in this snowbound school with no possible way to get out. It's it's an absolute thriller and an unbelievable page-turner. Great book for boys and girls alike. And my last book is You Are Not Here by Samantha Schutz. She is well known, but she did a memoir about her anxiety disorder that she wrote in free verse. And generally I'm not a big fan of books written in verse, but she does it so smoothly and so effortlessly. It makes for a very, very easy read. Great book for reluctant readers. This is a story of a girl who's involved with a boy who insists that he keeps their involvement a secret. So neither of their friends really know about it. She thinks it's the real thing, but it becomes pretty clear from what's going on that it's not the same for him at all. And then one day he drops dead on the basketball court. He has a heart attack. And she has to go through the whole process of grieving for this young man in total secrecy. And it's around her struggle with that and how she rebuilds her life and goes forward. Very quick read, very easy read, and a very powerful story as well. And that is the whole shebang. That's the Padawa High School.
Oh, very cool.
I know.
I like that.
Any questions? Anybody still there? Okay. Well, thanks, you guys.
People maybe don't know how to unmute their phones. You press #6 if you wanted to jump in with any questions at this point.
And we'd also be really interested in this is the first time we've done this. If there's any feedback, maybe at a later date, Brendan, you can pass it on to us.
Yep.
That would be wonderful to hear.
Absolutely, and by all means, feel free to get in touch. I don't think I put my contact information on the PowerPoint, but I'll just include it here if anybody wants to reach me. And then, Saf, do you want to add your email? And
So maybe we can ask a question. What types of books are your patrons asking about? What are they looking for?
everybody's off doing laundry.
Yeah.
12 participants, so people are out there. Well, you do have a question from Allison on the chat function.
Oh, I can't see it.
I find that a lot of our patrons are asking for just social issues, where the protagonist is going through social issues. So I found that a lot of the books that you were talking about in terms of class and stuff like that were really helpful.
That's good. Like sometimes when I read these books, I think it's almost impossible to avoid that, unless it's all teen vampires.
So there are other class issues in hierarchy and vampires, though?
Maybe.
That's great because I know certainly what Scholastic is doing and a lot of our publishers are really wanting to do is look at books that are not necessarily just vampire books. So there always seems to be some sort of, not always, but some sort of reason behind the book. And social issues is something that they're very passionately interested in.
Okay, are we good?
There's a question from Allison on the question and answer chat function. Maybe you don't.
Oh, there we are. Sorry. You know what? I can't see it. I'm really sorry. Can you?
Okay, I can read it for you.
Okay.
She's asked, can Fever Crumb be standalone, or do you have to read the others first?
Oh, no, it's absolutely standalone. It is it's a prequel, but it works just fine by itself.
Okay.
And there's a second book, a sequel to Fever Crumb. A sequel to the prequel is on its way.
A sequel to the prequel.
Yeah.
We have positive comments from Wanda Naganash. She said that she's read Numbers and agrees with you that it's a great book.
Oh, fantastic. Wanda, shoot me an email and I'll send you a copy of the sequel if you want.
Okay. Hear that, Wanda?
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh, good.
Great.
Just wanted to say, we just think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to be able to reach out to libraries that we can't always physically get to, and I hope that we have an opportunity to do more of this type of outreach because it's a lot of fun. And the publishers really are quite seriously interested in what librarians have to say, and we certainly love to give them that feedback back. So we will certainly pass on what Allison said, just to confirm what they're working on.
Yeah, I think libraries are really the bellwether for what's coming and what's changing and what kids want to read. So it's important to us.
We have a question from Laura Lee. She's sort of throwing the question out there. She's still looking for what to read after the Twilight series.
What to read in terms of like a vampire book or a romance book or something completely different?
Laura Lee, are you out there?
Yes, we've never had sort of that level of interest from our teen patrons that those books generated, and I'm just looking for something that's going to kind of capture the draw that they had.
Do you have a thought about that, Seth?
I think that, for me, I think that those books, whether it's, I would say, and I don't work for Scholastic, but I think it's the Hunger Games, right? And Janet did not pay me or tell me to say that. But those types of books really are not, they really do come from the ground up. They cannot be artificially manufactured. Harry Potter certainly was, and there have been a lot of vampire love stories out before Stephanie Meyer. But the next sort of big exciting thing I've seen in the industry really has been the Hunger Games. Is that just 3? Are they done, Janet, or are there more coming?
Yeah, they're all done, just the 3. I was going to say the same thing, and I agree with Saffron. I think that it has to happen organically, and you can't force it, and you can't create it. It has to grab teens' attention. I don't know what's going to be next after the Hunger Games, but I might look. If you've done those books already, then I might look at some of the other dystopian fiction.
Now, you mentioned the Salt trilogy as being maybe something that, for those that were interested in the Hunger Games. Now, is that more, because we found that the Hunger Games was more popular with adolescents in our library as opposed to teens?
The Hunger Games more with adolescents?
Yeah, kind of, I don't know, between 10 and 13.
You have some very advanced adolescents. Yeah, the Salt trilogy would definitely be a little bit, I would think for an older audience, but I also thought that Hunger Games was for a little bit older audience too. But it was we have some younger people, their 20s. The thing about Hunger Games and Stephanie Meyer and Harry Potter, they all sort of, those reasons those books are so successful, they appeal to everybody, not just the teens, right? So the Salt Trilogy in our office, the 20-year-olds all just thought it was crazy and exciting. They're the ones that really jumped on that bandwagon.
Okay.
Question from Christy. She asked, do you have any suggestions for what she calls gentle fiction for teens?
Oh, yeah. You know what? If I can find out how to get hold of Christy, I can send out a list. For teens, more than middle grade?
Christy, are you there? Well, if you wanted to send that list to either Marietta or myself, and we can make sure that Christy gets that.
Sorry, I'm here right now.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Christy. Sorry. You know what? I'm always a bit surprised in how much of this material is out there. You're looking specifically for teens rather than middle grade?
Yeah, like we've got a pretty big Amish community in our area, and they're interested in that type of age group, like the teen books. They just really want content that's appropriate. So anything that you could suggest would be great.
Yeah, I'll email a list for you to Marietta, and maybe she could forward that to you. Or you can just shoot me an email, and I'll send it directly.
We have a book in the adult list which is an Amish bonnet ripper with vampires. And I haven't actually read it, so I don't know about the content, but it's called Plain Forsaken, and the author is Leanna Ellis, but it is a Amish romance vampires.
Okay.
I hear that's a new thing, the bonnet rippers.
The bonnet rippers, yeah. But I know what you mean, like they're just like in terms of I don't know, when you said gentle fiction, it just seems like a lot of the teen books, there's a lot of angst and there's a lot of, issues-oriented issue books out there, so sometimes it's just great to have a jolly good read.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people are looking at things like no swearing, no sex, that type of thing, but that's still age appropriate for a teenager.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I put my email in the chat there. I'm not sure if you'll get that.
You know what? I can't see anything in the chat. I'm really sorry. Can you see my address there in Saffron's as well?
No.
Oh, our chat must not be connected then. Something is odd.
We can hook you up through email afterwards if
Okay.
it works.
Thanks, Brendan. That would be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Question from Sabrina. She's asking, are young adult librarians promoting their collections in schools, or are they mainly promoting them within the library? So maybe some of the librarians out there that are hooked up, maybe you could comment on Sabrina's question there. Any comments?
I'd have to say that the teens are finding a lot of the books at school or getting suggestions from their teachers, because they'll come into the public library with suggestions and ideas for us of books to order.
Good.
I know in Kitchener they have a very effective outreach, and they go and do a lot of book talks in the schools, and it's really effective in bringing kids in and making them more involved in the programming there. They also use a lot of our videos when they take them out and show the videos for the book talks, and we give them books to give away, and it works well for them.
I just want to ask you, this is Wanda. Have you heard of the book Big Bones?
No, I've not heard of that book.
I don't know it either.
It's really funny. Well, I guess it's funny when you look at it as a past. You know how a kid grows and grows quickly, and then you're trying to lose weight, but you can't seem to lose weight. That's what the story's about.
Wow.
And it's pretty good, because that's why they call it Big Bones, right? You have big bones. That's why it's so big.
Do you remember who the author was?
Geez, I can't remember who the author was. But it was, I was looking at it on Overdrive. And that's where I saw it. And
if you go to our website, our Dewey website, Janet and I are just 2 of the 7 members, and there's a lot of other teen books that we recommend on the website. So if you are looking for something, for more titles, you can certainly check out what HarperCollins has and Random House. Who else? So there's 9 publishers reps on there, 7 publishers reps.
Mm-hmm.
6.
That's good.
Oxford. There's some good nonfiction from Oxford there as well. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Overdrive, are you guys having a lot of demand for ebooks up there?
I am, but I mean, I have such a small library that sometimes it's easy to do an ebook.
What kind of material are people looking for?
Well, pretty well anything, really. Some of them look at the social aspects. Some of them look up teen books. Right now I'm looking at some French books, like the music French.
Interesting.
Hello?
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you.
I don't know. It's kind of like we do music. I know I've ordered some stuff for music. But
Like downloadable music, you mean?
oh, well, that. But I mean, even in the Overdrive, there's a certain because I had to really look for music stuff, eh?
Interesting.
Lyrics and I guess because with the Overdrive, you're listening to it, so it's doing the notes and things. I don't know how to explain it.
Oh no, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
One more question from Allison. She asks, would strings attached as an audio book be an appropriate choice?
An appropriate choice for who?
Allison, can you clarify that a little bit? I don't know if she's there or not.
There certainly is an. Oh yeah, someone's gone. There certainly is an audio available. It's definitely a teen book. So I would look at 12 and up for sure. Oh yeah, this is no longer with us.
It looks like a few people have had to leave, unfortunately.
That's okay. We're good.
Any other questions out there, either by chat or on the phone itself?
I was wondering, with most of the books that you've said, are they? I'd have to look for them and see if they're on Overdrive.
Yeah, none of the Scholastic ones are available in ebook format. You may see a change to that in the next month or so. We're hoping to have wider availability, but as of today, none of our books. Saffron?
Yeah, especially for people are still figuring it all out, and certainly they're a little bit more ahead of the curve in the United States, but not like in Canada. It just seems to be a lower priority for Overdrive to get it together. If I can be politically correct in saying that.
Yeah, because I think I've looked at some of the teen stuff, and I'm going, I have no clue who some of these authors are.
But I was just at a digital book world a few weeks ago in New York, and there was a conversation about libraries, and where libraries fit in the ecosystem when it comes to ebooks. Mm-hmm. But the one thing, and the ABC, the Association of Booksellers, Children's Booksellers, what is that called? Anyways, the American Booksellers Association for Kids Books, but their research has shown that teens are really not that into ebooks, which was quite stunning. The industry did a serious study on it, and the fact is that even everyone sort of thinks of teens as being early adopters, that the ebooks was one thing that they really weren't that into. And maybe it's because it's sort of a chicken and egg, because there's not a lot of content out there yet, but who knows?
Well, I find that the ebooks are not that great, but the audiobooks are. Because they can put them on their iPod and walk out and,
and go. Yeah.
Like you're doing something. And that's what the Overdrive is. It's audiobooks. It's not ebooks.
Oh, not the ebooks.
Right. I thought you meant ebooks. I'm sorry.
I know. They like the audio, because then when they're doing their talking away to their friends, they can listen to the story too.
We do have strings attached available on CDs, but I don't believe it's available in a downloadable audio at this point. I can check, though, and I'll pass that on to Mariette as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm a CNIB partner too, so.
Oh yeah, of course.
So it's really good. I've got to look at the content a little bit more for the teams, but this seems to be, there's some authors I don't know in there, so I've got to really do some rereading.
There's a lot to read, and I'm happy to send you out. You know, if there's anything in particular you're looking for, please get in touch, and I'm happy to send you some reading copies.
Okay, I sent my email off to the question and answer thing, whatever.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
I have everybody's contact information that was with us today, I believe. So if you wanted to send it either to myself or Marietta,
yep, I sure will.
We can then forward it on to everybody. There's just one more comment from Laura Lee here. She says that Big Bones is by, the author's name is Amanda Swift.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. Thank you.
Any other questions at this point or comments?
Well, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. This has been really fascinating, and we really enjoyed the feedback and hearing some of the questions from all of the participants. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much. It was
Thank you.
Thank you.
The whole time. I found it very interesting myself. So thank you personally and thank you professionally both. Reminder to participants that Marietta will be sending out an evaluation form. I'll be watching for that as well.
Yeah, if you could send that, that would be fantastic.
You will?